Okay, the next topic is strings. This is a relatively straightforward topic. A string is a collection of characters, like words in a sentence. For example, here we are declaring a name to be Ajay Tech. It doesn't matter if it is spaces or no spaces, as long as everything is encapsulated within these double quotes or single quotes, either way, it's a string. So like I said, single quotes work, double quotes work as well. And when you do a type of that variable, Python returns it as a string. So there are many operations that can be performed on strings, like slicing, stripping, etc., etc. And we'll talk more about it when we come to later sections. How about this Boolean variable? So this is what we have seen here, right? So we have said that there are 4 different types of variables: numbers, strings, and we have seen both of them. Now we are going to talk about Boolean variables. What is a Boolean variable? A Boolean variable is just a true or false variable. For example, let's say we are declaring a variable is employed. Now, there can be only 2 possible values for is employed, right? It's either an yes or a no. Is employed is either true or it's false. So this is a comment. So anything after a hash becomes a comment. So it's true in this case. Shift enter. So if you check what type of variable this is underscore employed, shift enter, is a Boolean. So the way you declare this Boolean value is with this word true with a capital T or false with a capital F. Okay, shift enter, and still this is a Boolean variable. Now if you forget this capital and say type in false, this is not a Boolean variable. So let's say, you see that? It says name false is not defined. If you want a variable to be Boolean, declare it as true or false with a capital T and a capital F. But if you want this to be false, like a string, all you have to do is encapsulate it with double quotes or single quotes, shift enter, and that's still okay. Now this is no longer a Boolean variable, it becomes a string. Now, where are Boolean variables used? In programming, there are a lot of situations where you do condition checking, like if this is greater than this, or if age is equal to 22. So all of the situations essentially result in a true or false value. And when you want to check whether a variable is true or false, this is how you check it. Sometimes you might have to put flags, like run this loop and then after that check for this flag. If it is true, then proceed forward. If not, then break the loop. So we'll see more examples of this as we go forward. But Boolean variables are really important because you use them a lot to define conditions. All right. Next, we talk about the variable naming convention. How can you declare the name of the variable? Well, there are a couple of conditions. The first thing being, it has to start with a letter, either capital or small. So it cannot start with a number. For example, if I want to say 9 underscore age, if that is the name of the variable, and if you say equal 23, it says invalid token. So it cannot start with a number. Or let's say 9 age, shift enter, still doesn't work. So a variable cannot start with a number. But if you do this, shift enter, that works. So that was the first condition. The second condition is it cannot have any special characters except an underscore. So if you do something like age underscore Ajay, that can be 23, sure, not a problem. But if you say age, say something like $, Ajay 23. So the variable name contains $. What happens? Shift enter. No, that doesn't work. So the only special character that the name of the variable can contain is an underscore. And the third constraint is that it should not be a reserved keyword. Now, what are reserved keywords? Now, there are some keywords that are reserved. For example, say, can you declare a variable with the name for? For equals 23. Does it work? Let's try that. Nope. It says invalid syntax. For is an example of a reserved keyword. The reserved keyword for is used in Python to do loops, which we haven't come to yet, but it's a reserved keyword. Or can you do something like a print? Print equal 23. Can you do that? Or can you do while equals 23? We want to create a variable with the name while and give it a number 23. Shift enter. Does it work? No, it does not, because while is also a reserved keyword. Now, how do you know what are all the reserved keywords? You don't have to. There are not a lot of them. Probably 20 or 40 of them. And it's probably very rare that you use your variable with those reserved keywords. But as you progress through the course, as you learn Python, you'll understand all the reserved keywords, and you should refrain from using any of those variable names because they don't work, number one. And number two, in terms of naming, it's always a good convention that you use meaningful names. What do I mean by meaningful name? So age is a good example of a meaningful name. Age is 23, right? And if you want to further qualify it in your program, like age underscore, say you're calculating the average age of men in the group. So age underscore men equal to 24, right? That's still a good example of a variable naming convention. But you cannot have spaces like age space men equal 24. No, that's not possible. Like I said, we cannot have all these special characters like hashes or at the rate or dollar symbols. All of these are prohibited in variable names. And another example is reserved keywords like for or import or while. If you want to know the list of all the reserved keywords, you don't really have to know, but if you want to know, you can get it either from Python documentation, or you can just run this little program, import keyword and then print keyword.kwlist. Like I said, it's not a huge list, right? Just use keyword.kwlist and it'll print out a list of Python reserved keywords. So you cannot have a variable name by the name lambda because it's a reserved keyword to define anonymous functions. Or for variable, or if else, del keyword that's used to delete, class keyword that's used to create an object oriented class. As is a reserved keyword, as. True or false are reserved keywords for Boolean variables. You don't have to memorize this list. As you go through your programming experience, you'll just know that these keywords are reserved. Next, let's talk about multiple assignments. This is an interesting concept that's probably unique only to Python and maybe to some other non-mainstream programming languages. But you don't see this in Java or C++. The convention is really simple. You can have a list of variables separated by commas, and then the values can be assigned again separated by commas. For example, age, comma weight equals 21, 101.5. Essentially, what you're trying to say is this is age and this is weight. This is equivalent to saying age equal 21, and then on the next line you say weight equals 101.5. Both are same, except that you can do this in one line using this multiple assignments convention. This is used in Python a lot because it's a concise way of using this assignment operator. If you want to assign multiple variables at the same time, especially when using functions. So we'll talk more about functions later, but just understand that you can do this.